Hi, I'm Erin from the Witch of Saturn here with Shanna of Sincerely Shanna D and Jay of Iridescent Tarot. This is our what is this? Our third video in our Marseille series in Learn Marseille with Erin, Shanna, and Jay. So welcome back, everybody. So first things first, let's talk about the syllabus because some changes were made to that. Jay, do you want to go over that?
Yeah, I'll touch on that just a little bit. So originally, when I had made this syllabus, I had assigned for week 3, chapter 7, and then part of chapter 10. But somehow, we, Erin and I both read all of chapter 10 and realized that I had made a typo. So, anyways, regardless, Shanna was able to catch up. Did you catch up all the way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So we read through all of chapter 10 for week 4 this week, and then we didn't touch on any of the majors. So there was some adjustments, some pretty big adjustments of the syllabus because of that little mix up, but it was even though it was kind of confusing, it was kind of good to be able to get through all the minors in one 2-week chunk.
Yeah, like in my head, because what we had discussed last time was like skipping around in the book to get the minors in first,
Yes.
because, we all have a pretty solid understanding of the majors that applies, also to Marseille, but that the minors are pretty drastically different from like RWS. So just in my mind, it was like, oh, we're doing the minors.
Yes. Yeah. You just kept reading, and then all of a sudden I looked back at the syllabus and I was like, oh, there was a stopping point, and we were going to read the rest of the minors way later in the study. So it's all it's all corrected now if you take a look at the updated syllabus, but we did jump around a little bit more than we had planned originally. So I'm sorry about that.
I just think that this way makes more sense anyway. So
Yeah. Now that we've done it, I'm like, oh yeah, this makes total sense, but it was confusing.
it's a work in progress. There's a learning curve. Yeah. Right.
Right. We're no professionals here. We're just 3 girls working on learning Marseille.
Yeah, we're learning on the fly. There were two things from last episode that I wanted to bring up and comment on. One of them was so Tarot de Ozarks that we all have now. We had discussed that there was a rumor about the creator possibly have passing away, and that is sadly true. I did
Oh,
confirm that with like a little bit of research, but she passed away, I think it was 2023, and so it doesn't seem like the deck is going anywhere in terms of availability, but yeah, I just want to follow up on that. Um,
how did you find it out?
the internet.
I
Following
had I,
breadcrumbs.
I had looked around and I didn't find anything.
Well, I didn't find anything like if you search the tarot deck, I didn't find anything, but I
Uh,
searched like her as a person and obituaries, and then it came
Mhm.
up.
I
And
see. Okay.
she's from the Ozarks, well, lived in the Ozarks. So that's why the tarot deck is named what it is. Um,
Yes.
so yeah,
Okay.
that's sad. It was, I think, ovarian cancer.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on, I want to see if I can find that page. Shanna, remember that part that you read last time we recorded? And I was like, oh yeah, that pissed me off. The thing about the like mystery of understanding the like the key to the tarot or whatever. Here it is. So this is on page 107 in the book, and it says, amid all the dancing figures, only the fool appears to be standing motionless. It is said that whoever understands the meaning of this fact will decipher the great secret of the tarot. The secret as such isn't revealed in the book, but we can find a hint of it in one of the female characters, who is an enlightened person with all-encompassing love. Only she sees the fool constantly jumping to and fro, disappearing and reappearing once again, each time filling the empty gaps between the other cards. Anybody think more about that or just me? I was like,
I thought about it only in the capacity that you were mad about it.
So I was like, what are they talking about? Like it was like one of those things that made me that like spins a little web in my brain. And I have a theory that I don't know that I think that I've figured it out per se, but I have a theory that it's referring to the Empress, and that the Empress is pregnant, which you can really see so much more clearly in the Marseille than in the RWS, right? Here's the Empress. And I think that the theory is that the Empress is pregnant with the Fool, and that the Fool's
Okay.
journey is occurring in utero. And so she's the only one who sees, or rather feels, like the Fool jumping to and fro. And so that's my
Wow.
theory about the
I
secret
like
of
that.
the majors.
That's really interesting.
So yeah,
Did,
that's what I've decided on. So I'm no longer mad about that.
did you come
That's
up with that
interesting.
out of like your brain, or did you like were you furiously searching for something
No,
to?
no, I sat with it and thought, I've thought about the female figures in the majors and what that could possibly mean, where I think that there's something about like thinking about the entire archetypal journey of the majors occurring in this kind of limbo state of between two realms that we all experience when we're in utero. Like in astrology, the 12th house kind of represents that state of coming into being, right? Where we're forming, but not yet having taken our first breath. And there's something about thinking that this whole archetypal story that unfolds in the majors could be something that's experienced like in that state of being, right? To fully form a soul and a human being. So that's how I spend my free time.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, otherwise, like on to this week, right?
So we had chapter 7, which basically was kind of a, if we take a look here, we have just the minor suits, and we talk a little bit about the suits domains, the hard and soft suits, your correspondences, reading the minors, and the row spread, which they got quite a few examples of. And then also jumped into chapter 10, which is all about the number cards. So we went on another overview. This is why I feel like if I had a little bit of feedback about this book, the way that it's divided up is a little bit confusing.
It is
Like,
weird.
yeah, we kind of have this overview of all of the minors here, and then we go into each individual. And I kind of struggled with that when I was trying to take my notes based on the highlights, because it's like all of the information in the beginning of chapter 10 felt important to me. Like I wanted that information on these pages as well. So I was trying to like flip back and forth between the intro to chapter 10 and the page when I was taking notes.
I think that was kind of my issue too, because he was talking about so many things that happened within the imagery, and there was no image to go along with it, which granted, I could have pulled out my deck,
Yes.
but a lot of my reading I was doing not at home. And so I should have brought my deck, but I didn't. And then even when I got home, and I was catching up and I would refer to the deck that I have, which is the classic tarot, it's the one that follows along most closely to what he's talking about. A lot of
Yeah.
that stuff isn't in that deck, like the little nuances of color. And so I wondered, well, two things. That was frustrating that there wasn't an image, in those meatier pieces of the book, that I could like look at as I read it. And then also I wondered if the little nuances, like where he talked about, I could even find an image in here where he talked about like the little sliver of white on one of the flowers in the upper left corner. Is
Yep.
that like typical in art or in Marseille, or is that just for the deck he's referring to? I don't know. Do you guys know?
I got the impression that the descriptions were very heavily leaning on the deck that he created, like the CBD Marseille, because I too was comparing that with like pretty much all the decks that I have now, because I was trying to find those little nuances, and I was like, yeah, I'm not seeing all of what he's saying.
Yeah.
So this is why I had to get traditional Marseille decks because I feel like that disconnect
Yeah.
will drive me nuts.
So wait,
And
how many should we just pause and share what decks we've gotten? Because I feel like we all ended up getting more decks because of this.
well, I just got two that I talked about the last time. I got the CBD
Oh, okay. Yep.
and have been using that. Okay, so this brought me back. This is like a throwback to like old school Erin study style. So what I did for this part that you're talking about, the beginning of chapter 10, where they give the overview of the suit first before going into the individual cards. Like this, the advice given, and this is something that like that I do for decks in general. I like to lay them out and see the whole story line of the deck as a whole rather than like the individual cards. And what I used to do back in the day when I was learning tarot was I would take my cards and I would photocopy them and shrink them down and put them in my notes. And so that's what I did for like these sections, the overview. So I just
Huh.
photocopied like the 2 through the 10, so that as I took these notes on the overview of the suit as a whole, like I can take in the full suit. It would have been nice if they did that like in the book, um,
Agreed.
before then going into like each individual card. I think that that's why it's structured that way. It's because those individual pages are to think about the cards as individual cards, and the descriptions of the suits are to think about the suit as a whole and the story that it tells. Like it reminded me of learning, like we talked about this before, the Rachel Pollack's lines of the majors, and like being able to see the story that is told through like that particular suit, right? Which
Mhm.
I appreciate. See, I like that. I like it to be not just 2 of coins, 3 of coins. Like I would rather have this this is like a way that my brain processes. I forget what it's called. If it's called top down or bottom up, I forget. But it's like that big picture first and then going down to the details. So I like the way it's structured in that way. It works really well for me, but I do agree that like the visual component was missing, and so like that's why I just created that for myself. And I'm using the CBD specifically for that. So I haven't read with this deck. I've just been using it more as like this is my study deck because this is the deck that's used in the book, and like that like dissonance between, like I can't use Terra de Ozarks for what this book is talking about because it's
It
it's
doesn't
different.
match.
Um, and what I found, I haven't done like a side by side comparison, but I did get the Pierre Matinee, and it does seem
LOL.
very
I, the matinee was the one that I was specifically using to compare with the images that were in the book. And like there was a couple of points where I think the white tipped was one of them. There was one about the pentacles not having dots in all of the pentacles, and that wasn't in the matinee. So there were quite a few
oh, interesting.
differences. Yeah.
Do you remember which card in particular?
I do remember in one of the pentacles, it said there were three upper left coins that, oh yeah, it was the 10 of coins. This might not be the same one that you're talking about, but it said the centers of the three, hold on, I'm gonna move my flag. Centers of the three coins at the top left are not colored red like the others. So that was another thing,
Yes.
like all these little pieces.
That's
Okay,
this.
so
So
that's
this,
here. You see
you
it?
have all of them with the red dots
Right.
in the matinee.
And not in the CBD.
Yeah. I kind of like the nuances because if anything, that's a case for having a small collection of Marseille because there are going to be differences. Like you are going to have things that are a little bit different deck to deck, and it's like it's a justification to have more than one deck.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have the CBD, Jay?
No, I don't like the digitized lines. It's too clean.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love that either, but for these purposes, I thought it was, something I wanted to be able to have on hand. And also, one of my toxic traits is that I will spend more money to get free shipping. And so that was one of these situations where I was like, oh, I could buy the CBD and get free shipping. And like that, therefore, in my mind, I'm like saving $10, even though I'm spending 20 more. I
Yeah.
don't know. So here we are.
So will you also link, because I'm assuming other people will be curious, link the decks that you guys have purchased, the CBD, and then also what did you say the other one was that you both picked up?
That's the Pierre Medinet.
Okay.
Where'd
Yes.
you buy that one from, Jay?
Tarot Arts or
Yeah,
someplace like that.
that's where I bought it too. Did you pay for shipping?
I don't remember. Probably. What? So did you order both of those too?
Yeah, I got them both from the same.
So then I probably paid. Yeah, I think I paid for shipping.
See, see, you could have spent more money and saved.
Spend more money to save money. No, I'm not in the business of doing that.
I am for free shipping always. So, but I'm glad I do because, something like that, like I like to be able to have that as just like a reference point, even if I'm not reading with this deck. I like to be able to see what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So here's a question. I found a deck called the Sola Busca,
Yes.
which I guess is the first fully illustrated Marseille. And I'm tempted by that one, but I'm like, that sort of goes against this whole point, right? Like to not be illustrated. So I don't know. It's really pretty, but it's
So
weird.
Well, I'm
is
more
that
tempted by that because I want to see like the origins of the miners in the RWS being inspired by that.
Hmm.
so?
Like that.
That's an Italian, like an old historic Italian deck, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So then we're going back past Marseille.
Mm,
I don't
no,
think so.
I think it's like
No,
happening in the same timeline.
it says 1491.
And when did Marseille get?
Where the Matinee is 1709, so that's a large gap.
Yeah, but
Huh.
these are just okay. I think like there were a lot of Marseille decks before that just we don't have access to, right? That have
Mm.
just been not preserved. Um,
So the oldest known Marseille is the Vasher, 1639,
Hmm. So then what would the Solabusca be then? Like,
a
because
historic Italian deck. They
but
don't
not Marseille.
know, as far as I know,
Okay, that makes sense.
because you have your whole category of the historic Italian decks, like the Visconti Sforza and all that.
yeah, and
Okay.
that's like in like the 1400s in northern Italy, right?
Hmm.
It says, yeah, around that same time period. So I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like those are in a different category than Marseille.
Nope, you're totally right. Thank
See,
you for making the clarification because now I've
I
just saved
have
$40.
no, I think that they're just in a totally different category. But I have that the printed decks from the 16th century, like the 1500s, are some of the earliest to survive. But do they know like the
I think you could go down an entire rabbit hole of ancient Italian tarot, and people do.
yes.
Um, the person is Marilyn from Tarot Clarity. I'll put a link in the description box, but she has excellent content on historic Marseille and ancient Italian decks. So that might
Interesting.
help.
Because what's the Solabusca date again?
It's
It's
like
like 14, yeah,
1459,
Yeah,
1491.
so
95.
and but in this book it says that the printed decks from the 1500s are some of the earliest Marseille decks to survive. So
Okay.
I feel like it is like kind of same timeline
Yeah. But not necessarily the same school, I guess.
style. Yeah,
Yeah.
but super interesting. I was very interested reading about that.
So I guess we could we could talk about chapter 7 because is there anything in particular that stood out to you from chapter 7?
One of the first things I flagged was it talked about the suit symbols, and then in the wands it said represents the class of peasants and farmers. The coin represents merchants and urban artisans. The sword represents the fighting nobility, and the cup represents the clergy, which, I mean, maybe that was a thing in RWS, kind of similar. I feel like maybe at some point I heard something about that, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I didn't note that down, but like it's funny which things that as we read we find interesting, and then like I do think that's super interesting, but when I read it, that didn't like stand out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took notes on that because I thought that that was interesting too, and it reminded me of the like class of nobility that you see in the courts.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it could play into even today. You could assign those things to specific social classes or whatever in our modern world.
Did anybody, as you were reading through the like individual interpretations of the card, think about how it connects to or may have inspired the miners in the RWS?
I did a little, but I also tried to keep them very separate in my head because I feel like this is such a separate thing. At least,
Yeah.
Yeah, my brain doesn't work like that. So
yeah,
this was very interest. This is one that stood out for me. Like, and I'm not saying it's not its own thing because it is, but like I can't, my brain doesn't do that. It like blends everything, doesn't compartmentalize information like that. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm learning about this. How does it connect to this as well? And like just different, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But in the Five of Coins, which keyword is disruption, it says the number 5 disrupts the solid stability of the 4 by adding a new element whose importance is magnified as it clashes with the conservative nature of the coins. The single coin at the center pushes the others to the margins and defines a big space for itself. And that to me gave me a whole new insight into the 5 of Pentacles, where you see the two people who are, outside of the church, and it's like the single coin at the center pushes the others to the margins, like these
mhm,
marginalized people, and defines a big space for itself, which clearly the church has done. And to
yeah,
me, it was just like, oh, this like kind of light bulb of how you can see the history or the roots of the Marseille kind of like playing out in the inspiring and kind of acting as a foundation for
yeah,
the decks that came later. So like I thought that that in particular, that card, it was just like really helpful for me to have a whole new understanding of the Five of Pentacles in general.
yeah.
Mm.
I like that.
I'm kind of on the same wavelength as Shanna, where I read it with the intention to keep it siloed in a different category than my RWS knowledge. And I found it different enough that it warranted feeling like it was in a different category. Like I totally get what you're saying, trying to blend it and make connections. But I feel like if I try to just like let it free flow in my brain like that, it's gonna just kind of get a little too muddied up. So I kind of did the same thing that Shanna did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not like trying. I'm just
I went through,
it's just
I
what
went
happens.
through I just used these like little flags and put keywords on the bottom of my least favorite Marseille deck. So I can kind of use that as my study deck because that's how I learned RWS. So
Can you show that again?
yeah, I thought the keywords were different enough from
Oh,
RWS
cool.
that, and I didn't really want to write on it. So
Oh,
yeah,
I love that. That's such a good idea.
yeah. So I think I'll
I
use
want to
that
do
as a
that.
study deck.
Yeah, I'll be doing that too.
How did you guys like your, I guess because we kind of did what, the one card-ish or one card daily-ish draws and then the map the energy. Did those resonate for you or did you feel, like they made sense or that they
Yeah.
portrayed
So
your week
I
for you?
for the one card daily-ish drawing, I pretty much did every other day for that. And I what I tried to do was break out of my Ozarks like love affair and try to use I actually ended up shuffling my FD Milano and using that because now I have
Mhm.
this one that's in order that I can like use to reference. And it was good to get back to something that was a little bit more traditional than Ozarks. And I found that the one card readings were nice. But I will say, just from the things that we read from our first session, it feels like Marseille really flourishes when you have that more than one card. So it was hard to get as much out of the one card readings.
Yeah,
And then the map my energy, that was awesome. Like I thought that was so cool, focusing on the color rather than any of the meanings.
agreed.
So I've been doing like continuing that week ahead practice with the Marseille, where I mean, I have a week ahead practice in general that I've been doing for some time now that I'm still doing, which is also interesting to see the overlap of those cards with the Marseille pull of the week. So I basically do two. I do like my own cards of the week, and then I'm taking them in as individual cards. But the Marseille card of the week, I lay out and leave out on this little table in my office so that I can see the week as a whole and kind of take in the whole plot line. So I'm paying attention to not just the individual day that I'm on, but like how that fits into the story of the week. And then also paying attention to that, like more map my energy or like the color story that shows up. And I've been doing that. I've been pulling it with Ozarks and then laying out the corresponding cards from matinee underneath it to also then like study the difference between a more modern take and a traditional Marseille. And I've been really enjoying that. I really like taking in that again. Like I like that full picture visual.
So, a question for both of you. How much weight do you give the color interpretation versus like the symbolism?
Ooh, that's tough. I think somehow when I read with Ozarks, I give the color more weight than I do with any of the other decks. And it might just be because I resonate a little bit more with the Ozarks colors. Like, one of the reasons I never got into Marseille in the first place is because I can't stand these primary colors, and it's like so unfun for my eyes to look at.
Very
Um,
limited.
yeah, it's so limited, and they're just like these garish primary colors. So I probably would say in general, I'm giving it like a 70-30 of symbolism or what's on the card versus the color. Like I still consider it, but it's not as heavily weighted as what I'm seeing in the image.
See, I feel like the color story is easier to see in the traditional Marseille
Hmm, interesting.
What about you,
because
Shanna?
it's so
Oh,
limited. There's more repetition of the same colors versus
That's
like
true.
in Ozarks, there'll be like there's some colors that pull through. Like I usually have like I'm drawn to like the reds because they kind of seem to show up in every card. But there's some like more unconventional, oh, what's the right word? More like vibrant colors that aren't in other cards that kind of show up that seem to like pink in that one, right? Versus like there's no pink in the next couple, something like that. Whereas in a traditional Marseille, there is a consistent palette that runs through. So I think that it's easier for my brain to see the particular color story um, in those decks.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that because I would say similar to Jay that I do prefer the Tarot de Ozarks just because I feel like there's more emotion in the color of that deck.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, or I guess I can assign more emotions to that deck versus the red, yellow,
Yes.
and black, right? Like I feel like that would
Yeah.
have like three type
Yeah, but
emotion.
so I'm not looking at it like an emotional connection, I guess. I'm more like looking at it as like patterns, right? Like it's not really
Mhm.
about like which deck I like better or feel more connected to. It's more like I'm looking at the colors as a pattern to see kind of like what shows up, and it's easier for
Right.
me to see a pattern in.
I think that can apply to the Tarot de Ozarks as well, because I think you can pull out similar
You
colors
can.
or
Yeah, I mean, I just find it to be more clear and easier because of, when you have five, six colors, and the
Mhm.
repetition of them is pretty, I mean, it's just a number game, right?
Yeah.
Like this blue is showing up in a lot of the other cards. There's not like six shades of blue like there are
Mhm.
in Ozarks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's more
It
just
might
like
just be,
pattern speaking.
yeah, I think maybe there's an element of like blocking out. I don't know if it's the same for you, Shanna, but like because you don't have those same emotional ties to the red, yellow, whatever in traditional Marseilles, when you see those things repeated, they're not giving you as much input as something that's more emotional driven than
Mhm.
like Ozarks. Is that kind of how it feels for you?
Yeah, I like the
Yeah.
nuances.
Yeah, me
And
too.
I as much as I blame my Capricorn for all of my sometimes other things that I don't care about myself, I think that my Sagittarius leans into the Tarot de Ozarks. I have that more fiery, like I'm drawn to it more. And I feel like it lends more to the story. It fluffs up the story a little bit for me.
So that sounds like you've liked reading with it this week because I know that you were really on the fence when you did buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I really like it a lot.
I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah.
So this is where I feel like Bacchus comes in for me because it feels more of a traditional Marseille to me than Terra de Ozarks, but it has these really bold, vibrant colors
Mm.
that are really deviating from traditional Marseille and aren't repeating themselves in every card, but tell their own color story. Um, but in a way that's more, I don't know, it's just less like what's the right word?
Feels more
Ozark,
structured.
yes, it still has more of like a structure to it or
Mhm.
something. So it's just like a different way of reading the the color story. And I think that Ozarks kind of deviates from, it's like a little further out from like a traditional Marseille than like this to me would be more in the middle,
Right.
if that makes sense. But
Yeah,
this
Yeah.
no, that
gives
does.
me that like that saturation and that color that I resonate with on a more like it gives me more of like a pleasurable experience, right, than a traditional Marseille color
Well, and
palette. I just love
I
that.
think too, the thing that maybe we are forgetting is that the artist never intended for Tarot de Ozarks to be a Marseille, or that's what she said. And maybe I was thinking about, I wondered why she said that. And I think that maybe it was to alleviate the pressure of not being Marseille enough. So she just said
Mhm.
it's not. I
Right.
mean, I don't know that, but in my head, that's.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And I think that one of my small struggles with Pipspeak is exactly what we're talking about, where it's it's somewhere in the middle. Like the suits are heavily colored in these traditional red, blue, yellow. Like I don't like those colors, but then she includes the pinks and the purples and some of these other colors into it. But I think like I am finding that I'm not connecting with Pipspeak as much as I would have liked. And I think that it's
Same.
a color problem.
I think Pip Speaks feels a little too heavy and flat. I don't know. And flat maybe isn't quite the right word, but heavy, yes.
Yes.
There's not enough, like, I don't know. There's not enough breathing room, I guess.
Yeah, they feel kind of like muddy, those
Yeah,
colors. A
yeah,
little more, you guys might like it more in like the fall or something.
maybe.
Seems like a late summer, fall type
The
deck.
majors and the courts are excellent. And they have that breathing room and the dynamic, I don't know, just like a little bit more movement. But then when you get into those pips, yes, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Do you guys have more Marseille decks on your radar?
I briefly looked at the Soprafino.
I think
I
that's
don't
an Italian too.
really.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
pretty
liking
sure
the
that one,
Italian decks.
I'm pretty sure that one is Marseille though.
Yeah, it's Milan, 19th century. But I like the Italian decks too, Shanna, because I
Hmm.
got so the FD Milano is from Milan, but it's the same time period as these Marseille. And then I got this Eduardo Dodi, which is also a Milan. And so it's another like Italian style deck. And I like them too.
Yeah. They're just, I don't know, whatever their style is, it just suits me a little better, I think.
Yeah.
I'm like very happy with the Marseille decks that I have right now. Like I love Bacus so much, so much. And I'm really enjoying the other decks too. Well, I should say I'm enjoying these four, right, that I'm like reading with because the other ones that I have that I bought prior to the study are just sitting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the dark one.
Yeah, that one, those are that, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm struggling a little bit with the matinee because I feel like the cardstock is a little bit firm for me. I
It's a little
love
weird.
I love the colors. I think that the art style is nice, but and I like the really muddy lines. So there's a lot that I do like about it. But cardstock wise, I haven't tried to shuffle it yet, but it's pretty firm feeling.
Yeah, I agree. But I like it enough to not care about that.
Do you guys think you'll make the switch from Marseille to RWS as your main reading?
Ooh,
No,
that's a good question.
I think
What about?
I'll read with both, like I'm doing now. I don't see it like a switch or something.
I think for me, I would use Marseille in the same way that I would use the traditional RWS. Like I go to traditional RWS when I need a very straightforward, not a lot of other stuff happening reading. I don't know if I have a good example of that, but I think that's what I would use Marseille for. Or maybe even if I was reading for someone else where I didn't want a lot of I guess emotional or personable feedback from the images or the people in an RWS. I think it would be beneficial for those. But overall, I'm going to stick with RWS.
I really I think that I might try my hand at using Marseille on other people and see how that works. If I get the same type of if I'm able to give the same type of reading experience, I'll have to like
Mm.
play around with someone on that. Um, but I don't see this like, oh my gosh, I don't want any of my other decks now. I'm just like a Marseille person from here on
Yeah.
out. Yeah, I don't feel that.
What about you,
Yeah, I
Jay?
don't no, I don't feel that either. I think what blew my mind the first couple weeks is the open reading style. And I think that's the thing that I'm going to bring forward the most into my readings. That in particular, where reading about the specific card descriptions this week, I I was like, that's nice and all, and I like adding like knowledge to my repertoire, but it didn't make me want to switch to Marseille as my primary reading style in the way that reading about open readings did that for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
And
it's interesting having like learned open reading with RWS
yes,
Hmm.
to, to then have um I don't know, I'm kind of glad that coming into this that I had done so much of that practice before. Um and just like been able to like layer more on top of that. And it is a challenge with the pips. Like it is something different with that.
yeah, they're definitely I kind of thought that the way that the pip cards would be described in chapter 10, I kind of thought it was going to be a little bit more math-like, where it was like you have the six, which represents whatever, and then you have the coins, which represents whatever. So you add six plus coins and you get your description. And it wasn't as mathy as I kind of anticipated.
Yeah.
No, it's very much like what do you see? You know, like
Hmm.
that's the open reading style, right? Is like, what are these images showing you? Like, you know, this one's isolated, this one has a lot of room, there's growth here. Like, I like that. I like that about
Hmm.
this. I like that it's not so like mathematical. It's more, um, you know, like what do you see in this particular card? What is what's the imagery showing you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I feel like you can take that way of reading back to your other decks and just apply that, and you
Yeah.
don't have to be like a Marseille reader.
No, totally.
And then on week 4, we had for our assignments to do the one card yes or no. I didn't really like doing that because I don't love, in general, like I've never done yes no readings. I always do open ended questions.
Hmm.
Um, so I gave us that assignment. I didn't love that part.
Yeah.
And then the general 3 card spread with the focus on being color for the first one, and then and then the second one being with a focus on number. I liked doing that because it really let you hone in on, okay, this time I'm reading and I'm only looking at the color, and this time I'm reading, I'm only looking at the number. And I thought that was a really nice juxtaposition, one after the
Hmm.
other.
I thought it was a nice way to sort of lean into the concept of Marseille.
Yes. Yeah.
I saw somewhere on social media, like just to go back to what we were talking about a second ago, and like what you can get from the imagery instead of the, you know, the suit plus the number type of thing. Is like someone had posted the Ten of Cups and said like, don't be afraid to be different. And I love that. Like this one
Yeah.
cup is, you know, going against the grain, doing its own thing. It's bigger than the others. It's not upright. And like something like that, I love to be able to pull a message like that from the pips that seem
Mhm.
like they shouldn't be able to give you as much as they do or something.
I think that was one thing I wrote as just as a side note in the book was that the author gives a lot of like very structured keywords, which is great. And again, that's how I learned RWS, but I was struggling with those using his same keywords because when I look at some of these cards, those keywords are not what I would associate it with.
Yeah.
And so that card specifically, I can't remember exactly what because they've talked about that main cup being at the top. Like that cup was the leader, I think, something along
Yes.
those
Yeah.
lines.
Leadership.
And
Yeah.
that's not, I really like the way someone else has brought it up in that being different. And I thought, okay, so you don't have to follow his structure or his, keyword suggestions. It can
Right.
still be about what your intuition is telling you in that moment with that card and that
Well, I
clearing.
think
So,
I think that really like the open reading style is all about that. And this whole thing of
right.
like everything is a sign and you know, it's like what do you see in not only this card, but in the combination of the cards surrounding it. Like, what is the
Exactly.
story that's being painted? And some of the best advice I heard about how to frame questions, especially in predictive readings for clients or a predictive reading style, which is what I associate with open reading to be. Um, it's like how I learned it. I learned it as predictive reading. And then once we got to this study, I was like, oh, open reading is predictive reading. Like I just hadn't heard it phrased that way before. But anyway, I digress. But to frame your question as show me what this looks like. What does it look like if, because tarot speaks in imagery, right? So it's like, what does it look like if I take this new job? What does it look like if I stay in the position I'm currently at? And then you're comparing these two stories, right?
Hmm.
Pull three cards for the first path or road. What does that look like? What if I do, what does it look like if I do this instead? And then see the storyline play out, right?
You know,
And to not pay attention so much to those keywords, those definitions, the structured meaning of the cards, because like sometimes the image shows you something that is so on the nose, it's like hilarious, that has nothing to do with what the card means.
right.
It's an
Exactly.
answer to your question. It's showing you exactly what it will look like, you know?
And I think that's a good reminder, even with RWS, that when people are learning the cards, they're so focused on like, what does the card mean versus what are you getting from that card in that moment, you know?
Yeah, what do you see? And what do
Exactly.
you understand, right? Like what are
Hmm.
you intuiting? What are you taking in through all of your senses, through not only just your eyes, but that intuitive, like your third eye, right? Like, what do you
Hmm.
see?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what my practice has kind of just like been revolving around with the Marseille study is just like I'm doing the week ahead and then I'm doing a bunch of open readings. Like I'm
Yeah.
just asking questions, I'm throwing down three cards and I'm sitting with them and seeing what makes sense, what this looks like, what that looks like. Um, it's fun. It's interesting.
Were there any cards in particular that surprised you in their meaning?
Ooh, let me check my notes. Shanna, you have such good questions.
I'm trying. I took notes today, like question
That,
notes today.
that's so good. I'm really impressed. One of the quotes that I wrote down for the sword suit it's not a specific card, but just something that he said that I really found profound. The separation between an internal and external part emphasizes the cutting character of the suit of the swords. And so what we really see in a lot of those suits, in a lot of the swords cards, because the swords are bowed, you always have an internal and an external. And how can you apply the fact that that boundary, that cuttingness of the internal and the outternal, how it can apply to pretty much every card in the sword of the suits, in the suit of the swords.
And I like that bone nature of the swords also becomes very protective. Like there's that space in between, like especially like in the four of swords right there that we're
Right.
looking at, like where there's a boundary, right? And either that can be a good thing or a bad thing. And that's so swordsy.
So swordsy.
What did you have for your favorite little tidbit?
I liked the nuance of all the little, just the things that I didn't even realize were on the cards.
Yeah.
Just like the white tip of the petal, or there was one with a single white berry on a sideways branch. I had no idea that stuff was even there. Um, and so now it's an
Mm.
invitation to dive deeper into all the little nuances. I liked the little Easter
I
eggs,
like,
I guess you could
yeah, I
say.
liked that little berry part. I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like even the things that he didn't point out as those little nuances, you can see them now. Like maybe they didn't mention anything on the Hanged Man about the different color on this side versus this side, or the fact that
Mhm.
these are opposites that are switched and the top bar is a different color. Like those things aren't talked about, but you can now read into and infer those things because you're more aware of all the little
Mhm.
differences that can happen on each of the cards.
Yep. It's like we've been given Marseille glasses. We put them on, and we're like, oh, I see it
Yes.
now.
Yeah. Makes you more detail oriented.
Yeah.
What about
Did anybody try this? I wanted to try this and I didn't do it yet. But that spread where you're just reading the majors, but you're pulling cards and layering them on top of each other until you get a major.
Oh yeah, that was in here somewhere.
Under reading the minor suits, where you shuffle, there's like different ways to read, right? You can shuffle the majors and the minors together. You can keep them separate in a two-part reading, reading minors first, then majors, or doing this middle way where you rely on the majors but use the minors as a background layer for a basic three-card spread. So you make three piles with a major on top. So you just keep drawing cards in the pile. So if you're like, you pull this card, it goes down, it goes down until you get, oh, here's a major. So then that's the top of pile one. And then
Yeah.
oh, here's another major. So pile two is just that one major. And then pile three, I'm pulling this, and then here's the double. So there's my three-card spread. And then I'm noting like, okay, well, this first pile with justice has three cards underneath it. And then you can lay them out like this way as their
Mhm.
own storyline, right? And
That's page
give
215.
give that like background information to this major. And then what does that mean that this major has nothing underneath it? And then, the last one just has this one card. So you're doing a three-card spread, but there's this kind of like what's the undercurrent, which reminds me of how I read the bottom of the deck in my
Mhm.
readings. And I hope
Right.
that this was really interesting and I want to try that.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Add it
I
to the
will look
syllabus of things to do for.
yeah.
And then it's like you check how many suits are present. Like, are there a lot? Is there overlap with? Is there a bunch of swords in this pile? I just thought it was an interesting way to kind of pull in all of these different correspondences into one reading.
I do like that.
Yeah, it solidifies a lot of different things. So what do we have going on for the next session? We've got majors 1 through 6 for week 5, and then we've got majors 7 through 12 for week 6. And the activity side is pretty light. So if anyone has any other ideas of things they want to add to it, like maybe we should add that to
I was
week
just gonna
5.
say, yeah,
Yeah,
let's add that in.
cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good one considering it's majors and still ties in the pips and other parts of the practice as well.
Cool. I'll add that in.
Cool.
And then maybe for week 5, I'll add that. And then for week 6, we can add that row one in too, because I took notes on that spread as well.
What page was that on, Jay?
That was 221, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so the rose spread is basically just like saying that it's difficult to get a full reading with only three cards if you're using the minors as well as the majors, because the minors aren't rich in details the way that the majors are. So like to kind of I did play around with this already, I forgot. Um, so if you pull like seven cards, then there's a clearly delineated center where you've got three cards on one side and then your central card and three cards on the other, and doing a reading and taking in like the story of that. Or and I did this too. Um, six cards where you're separating them into two groups of like, kind of like what I was saying. If you have a question about like your new job, and then it's like, well, one row shows you if you stay, one row, choice A, choice B, or whatever it might be. Or it said like you can also not decide in advance, use no set number, and just lay out the story with more freedom, which reminds me of those memes that you see of somebody sitting on the ground with like the whole tarot deck out in front of you, just keep going, like when do you stop?
Uh-huh.
So that there's like, benefits and drawbacks to that too. Or you could stop once you get the answer you want. Like, oh, that's it, we're done now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that it's interesting to kind of play around with stuff like that. So I did do that this week. I forgot about that, but we can definitely add that in.
I just added it to the syllabus, so it's all good to go.
All right, great.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. All right. I think we're any last words on anything from this week that we want to chat about?
I don't think so.
Cool. Well, we're truly in the thick of it in this study, so I feel like we're just tugging along, having fun.
So for those of you that are following along with us, make sure that you check the updated syllabus and please let us know your progress in the study, if you're enjoying it, if there are things that you think are important that we haven't touched on, would always be helpful to get some feedback with that. And
Also,
yeah,
tell us what your favorite deck is.
yes, that too. That too. Oh,
Yeah.
there's what's her name? Somebody on, is it Elements of Tarot? What's her name on Instagram?
Yeah, Aldana.
Aldana?
Hmm.
Yes. She's got some great Marseille decks.
Yeah, she does. And she's been following along with the study, and it's been really nice to just have people that are like super excited about Marseille participating, watching the videos, like being in the comment section, chatting about their experiences. So that's like, we love that.
I think she has all like Shanna, she has the deck that you use. She has all of the decks that we have, I think.
That's awesome. I love it.
Great taste. Great
She has
taste.
great deck taste.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, thanks, guys. This is fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
All right. Thanks
Looking
for your
forward
time.
to it.
And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
All
Bye.
right.
Talk to you
Bye.
later.